title. I gave my parents a luxurious 1-week trip to Europe with me, but when I picked them up for the airport, they told me they were going with my jobless sister instead. My mother smiled. Your sister needed some rest, so we decided to take her. I didn't say anything. However, when they landed in Europe, a gift meant to heal. Growing up, I was always the one who fixed things. When Dad lost his job, I cut up my college meal card to save money and sent part of my scholarship refund back home. When Mom got sick and needed help getting to appointments, I rearranged my internship hours to be there. And when my little sister, Lana, dropped out of school to find herself, I was the one who paid her rent for 6 months. But none of that mattered, really. Not when Lana cried. Not when Lana wanted something. Because in our house, Lana's tears were gospel. Her struggles were always just a little more urgent. Her needs always weighed just a little more than mine. Still, I kept showing up. That's who I am. So when I landed a huge promotion, creative director at one of the top agencies in the city, I decided to celebrate by giving back. A 1-week, all expenses paid luxury trip to Europe. Paris, Rome, Venice. The dream. Just the 3 of us, I told Mom over the phone. You, Dad, and me. First class. 5-star hotels. My treat. She sounded thrilled. Dad even got choked up. I spent weeks curating the itinerary. Restaurant reservations. Chauffeurs. Guided tours in every city. Personalized welcome baskets delivered to each suite, with their initials embroidered on silk sleep masks. I wanted it to be unforgettable, and it was, just not in the way I imagined. The airport betrayal. The day of the flight, I pulled up to my parents' house with the town car, loaded their suitcases, and smiled as they came outside. But then the front door opened again. Out walked Lana, sunglasses on, luggage in tow, dressed like a boho Instagram influencer who'd never worked a day in her life. I blinked. Mom walked over to me with a gentle smile and said the words that would hollow out my chest. Sweetheart, your sister needed some rest. So we decided to take her instead. I looked from her to Dad, who wouldn't meet my eyes, and then back to Lana, who was scrolling through her phone like she wasn't even present. You decided? I said, barely able to keep my voice steady. Well, she's been so stressed lately, Mom explained, as if the jobless, rent-free lifestyle was a source of deep trauma. We figured she needed it more than we did. I said nothing, not a word. I simply helped load the last suitcase into the trunk and waved goodbye as the car pulled away. And as I watched them disappear down the street, I whispered to myself, let's see how well that trip goes. Without me. Because what they didn't know, I hadn't just booked the trip. I controlled everything about it. Welcome to Europe. Kind of. They landed in Paris on a cool spring morning. The sky was perfect, the air crisp with promise. Mom had dreamed of seeing the Eiffel Tower her entire life. She imagined this trip would be the fairy tale she always felt she deserved. She didn't notice anything strange at first. Their driver was late. Not Paris late, but American forgotten to book late. They stood at the arrivals gate for almost 40 minutes, surrounded by a crowd of tourists and aggressive cab drivers. Finally, a flustered man in a wrinkled suit appeared, holding a sign with my parents' last name misspelled. Smith, instead of Smith. He didn't offer to help with the bags, didn't speak English. And the car, not the black Mercedes I had reserved for my version of the trip. It was a sputtering sedan that barely looked legal. Lana was the first to complain. Is this a joke? This can't be the ride. But it wasn't a joke. It was an adjustment. The hotel that didn't exist. At the hotel, things got weirder. Their reservation was canceled, at least according to the front desk. They had no record of a booking under any of their names. Mom pulled up the confirmation I had emailed her, but it didn't match the hotel's system. The concierge politely suggested they try down the street at a more budget-friendly option, which is where they ended up. Not the regal suite with a view of the Eiffel Tower, a tiny walk-up hostel with twin beds and no air conditioning. Lana nearly screamed. Dad had to carry the luggage himself, up 3 flights of stairs. Mom asked the receptionist if this was part of the package. He looked confused. What package? Meanwhile, back home, I was sitting on my balcony, coffee in hand, getting live text updates from an assistant I hired specifically for this moment. A woman named Isabel, a former hotel manager who helped me reroute, adjust, and carefully detour every leg of the trip once I knew I wouldn't be on it. "You sure you want to go through with all this?" she'd asked me months ago. I had smiled. "Oh, absolutely. They need to understand." Because I hadn't planned this trip for Lana. She wasn't even part of the itinerary, which meant she was about to learn exactly how excluded she truly was. The text. By the second night, I got a message from Mom. "Kira, what's going on? Nothing's matching up. The tours are canceled. We waited at the restaurant for 2 hours. No reservation. Everything's falling apart." I stared at it for a moment, then replied, "So sorry, Mom. I planned everything for 3. You made it clear only 2 of you mattered. Hope you're enjoying the rest." No response, but I knew she read it. Cracks in the fairy tale. By day 3, the cracks in their luxury vacation had become gaping holes. Lana was livid. She had posted a story on Instagram, captioned "Living the Paris Dream," but the background clearly showed peeling wallpaper and a rickety ceiling fan. She deleted it moments later. That afternoon, they arrived at the Versailles tour, only to be told their names weren't on the list. Again. "We've been on the schedule for months," Mom insisted. The guide double-checked. Only one person named Kira Smith booked this, for herself. No guests attached. I had removed them from the guest list entirely. They weren't guests anymore. They were replacements, and Europe had no seat for replacements. Tensions rise. That night, my parents and Lana went to the Eiffel Tower. Lena demanded an Uber. They couldn't get one. The SIM cards I had planned to provide for international roaming were never handed to them. They were dependent on spotty hotel Wi-Fi and confused tourists for directions. Once again, they had to wait for a local taxi, one that overcharged them and dropped them off 3 blocks from the entrance. And then, it started to rain. Just as they reached the front of the line, soaked and miserable, the lights of the Eiffel Tower sparkled to life. But there was no joy, just tension. And when they got back to the hotel, cold, wet, and exhausted, Lana snapped, "This is your fault, Mom. You let her do this. She's screwing with us." Mom, tired and trying to hold everything together, responded the only way she knew how, by defending Lana. "She's always been sensitive. She probably didn't mean for things to go this badly." "Are you kidding me?" Lana shouted. "You stole her trip, and now we're here looking like fools." Even Dad, normally quiet and removed, spoke up. "We shouldn't have taken this from Kira." Back home, me and my tea. I was in bed, watching a documentary with a mug of chamomile tea, when I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. 2 minutes later, I got a voicemail. It was my mother. Her voice was shaky. "Kira, I know you're upset. I understand now. I really do. Please call me. We're not having a good time." I stared at the phone, lips tight, emotions warring in my chest. It wasn't satisfaction I felt. It was validation. After a lifetime of being invisible, they saw me now. The dinner that never happened. Their big final night in Paris was supposed to be a 5-course dinner cruise on the Seine. I had originally planned it down to the wine pairings and floral centerpieces. But since I was no longer going, I canceled the reservation the day before the flight. No refund, no backup. Just a confused hostess telling them, "I'm sorry, you're not on the list. We're fully booked." The breaking point. The morning they were supposed to leave Paris for Rome, Lana refused to get out of bed. "I'm not going," she said, arms folded, eyes red from crying. "This entire trip has been a disaster." Mom tried to soothe her. "Sweetheart, maybe Rome will be better." "Better?" Lena hissed. "There are bedbugs in this place. I've eaten gas station croissants for 2 days, and everyone here hates me." Dad had already packed his suitcase. He stood quietly by the door, watching both of them like a man who just realized he didn't know the people standing in front of him. "We shouldn't have come," he finally said. A message from me. That same day, I sent Dad a message. Just Dad. Not the group chat. Not Mom. Not Lana. A simple text. "Hope you're okay. This was never about ruining your trip. It was about showing you what I felt like for years." He didn't respond right away, but a few hours later, he replied, "I see it now. I'm sorry I didn't sooner." That was the first time he had said those words to me in my adult life. And for the first time since this started, I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger, sadness. Because this trip, this disaster, should have been a celebration, a memory we built together. Instead, it had become proof of everything we'd ignored. Meanwhile, in Rome, when they landed in Italy, their luggage didn't. The airline blamed a system error. I knew better. The tickets were booked through a travel service I controlled, and I had marked their names as standby passengers, days before the flight. They stood in the airport for 4 hours trying to sort it out. By then, even Mom was unraveling. She called me again. I didn't answer. Then she texted, "I didn't realize what I was doing. Not until now. We've always leaned on you too hard, taken from you without giving anything back. We let Lana take your place. Again. And I'm sorry." I stared at the screen. The words I had longed to hear since I was 16 were finally there, and I didn't know how to feel. The journal. That night, I opened an old leather journal I hadn't touched in years. I flipped through pages written in my 20s. Pages filled with moments. When they skipped my college graduation because Lana wasn't feeling well. When I bought Christmas gifts with my own money, while they praised Lana for just showing up. When I got a promotion, and no one called, but they posted Lana's half-finished painting on Facebook with the caption, "Our talented baby." It was all there. The forgotten moments, the favoritism, the quiet grief. And I cried, not out of revenge, but because I realized this trip wasn't just for them. It was a funeral for the version of me that still hoped they'd treat me like I mattered first. Not for them, but for me. It had taken 5 days for the texts, voicemails, and apologies to catch up to the years of being the afterthought. And now, I was no longer angry, just awake. Something inside me had clicked into place. The version of me that planned, provided, and stayed quiet for peace. She was gone. What remained was someone who had finally recognized her own worth, without needing anyone else to confirm it. The call from Dad. He called again. I answered this time. "Kira," he said softly. His voice was raspy, tired, not just from the travel or the fallout, but from the weight of his own guilt. "I don't expect you to forgive us," he said, "but I need to say this. You were right to do what you did. You've always carried us. We let you." I didn't speak right away. The silence on the other end wasn't awkward. It was honest. He continued, "Your mother, she's trying to figure it out. Lana, maybe this won't fix her, but it's made her look in a mirror for once." I finally spoke. "You always told me to be the bigger person, to put family first. I did, for years, but you never saw how that crushed me. I see it now," he said, "and I hope someday you'll come visit, not for us, but because you want to." That part felt real. "I'll think about it," I said, and I meant it. The gift I did give them. While they were struggling through the last leg of the trip, I made a choice. I reinstated their final hotel reservation in Venice. Just one night. The same hotel I had dreamed of staying in with them. The one with the courtyard fountain, the sunset view of the canals, the private gondola ride. I left them a note with the front desk. It simply read, "This was what I wanted you to have. But next time, earn it. K." Because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Sometimes, it just means no longer allowing the past to dictate your future. Back to me. The following week, I submitted my application for a fellowship I had been avoiding for years, a 1-year creative residency in Japan. All expenses paid. Solo. When I told my parents, they didn't ask if Lana could come. They didn't try to guilt me into staying close. They just said, "You deserve this." I knew then that something had changed, not just in them, but in me. Because for the first time in my life, I had given myself something no one else ever had. Priority. The departure gate. 3 months later, I stood at gate 16, passport in hand, moments away from boarding a flight that felt more like a rite of passage than a trip. My fellowship acceptance letter was tucked into my travel journal. I had secured the apartment in Kyoto. I had lined up my first speaking event, and even booked a solo photo walk through the ancient gardens I'd spent years dreaming about. No +1, no shared agenda, no compromise, just me. The letter a week before my departure, a package arrived from my parents. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. Inside was a handwritten letter from my mom. Her script was neat, but slow, like she had taken her time, or stopped often to think. "Kira, I used to think being a good mother meant protecting the weakest child. Now I realize I let that thinking cost me the strongest one. You gave us something beautiful, and we discarded it like it was optional. I can never undo what we did. But I hope, someday, we earn the chance to know the woman we failed to see. P.S. We framed your note in Venice. It sits in our hallway. I walk past it every morning, and it makes me better. The power of not going back." I reread the letter, tucked it into my journal, and smiled. Not because all was forgiven, but because they finally understood. This trip, this new chapter, wasn't about punishing them anymore. It was about loving me more than I ever had before. For the first time in my life, I wasn't giving to be noticed. I wasn't performing to be chosen. I was choosing me, on my own terms. Epilogue. Legacy. Months later, I gave a talk in Tokyo on emotional boundaries and breaking free from family roles. Afterward, a woman approached me in tears. My older sister paid for everything growing up, she said. I didn't realize until recently what that cost her. I gave her a hug and whispered, "It's never too late to see someone fully, but don't wait until they walk away to do it." The last message. Before bed that night, I posted one final message on social media, next to a photo of me sipping tea beside a cherry blossom tree. I once gave my family a trip of a lifetime. They gave it away, so I gave myself something better: freedom. And no one's taking it this time. You are not alone, and you are so much stronger than you think. Tap that subscribe button to join Veiled Revenge, where we share tales that heal, inspire, and remind you that even the deepest heartbreak can lead to the most beautiful new beginning. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that revenge isn't always about getting even. Sometimes it's just about getting better